America. We were living in the east by the Nile River, living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
It's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad said 6 words to us, and these were the 6 most powerful words that he spoke. He said, accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own. The Caucasians who brought our fathers into slavery desired to take us away from our own people, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, our own language. So we have grown up in America away from our own mind, away from our own selves, and so we have been actually indoctrinated with an alien mentality.
10,000 fearless men, because we're going to have to challenge the things that are destroying our community. So this ain't no punk time. This ain't no temple time, mosque time, or church time. All the singing and shouting and preaching is over. Get in them streets now, block by block. We're going to have to clean it up. The airwaves is not enough. The television screen is not enough. You got to put boots on the ground who are trained and are willing to make the sacrifice of life itself to see our community made a decent place to live.
Attention. Drill.
Soldiering is a part of the Nation of Islam, and it readies all of us to obey the commands of God. Now some will ask, well, why military drill? Because this is what produces the camaraderie.
Facebook and Instagram thought that they could ban the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
But in reality, they can't, because he already lives in us and millions of others.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, All praise is due to Allah, Master Fard Muhammad, the one true and living God, to whom praise is due forever. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger. Peace, family, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of WHID-FM. WHID-FM is your personal platform for those of us striving to follow the life-giving, life-saving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as given to us by his premier pupil, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gather right here in this virtual meeting place to answer that most critical question: what has Islam done for me? It's Sunday, November 9th, 2025, and at this time, we're going to turn it over to that dynamic co-host of WHID-FM, our sister, Janine Muhammad, who is a superstar student here in the ministry at Muhammad Mosque number 6, under the leadership of our beloved brother, student Imam Abdul Salam Muhammad. Sister Janine.
Assalamu alaikum, family, and thank you again for joining us for another wonderful episode of WHID-FM. We thank you for tuning in each and every week, where we hear the stories from our various guests about what Islam has done and continuing to do for them. I'm going to introduce our guest for tonight, who is Brother Christopher X, who is formerly known as Christopher Marquise. He attended the University of North Texas, where he studied international studies. But before he finished his degree, he commenced his journey as an actor. Brother Christopher has participated in the acting industry for more than a decade and has been in shows and movies such as Queen of the South, DMZ, MacGyver, Black Lightning, The Suicide Squad, and The Promised Land. Farming has always had a special place in his heart and in his life, and in the year of 2023, he decided to dedicate himself to farm, and if it is the will of Allah, teach others in return. His focus now is to build cleaner environments in our neighborhood where clean food is scarce, and food is one way to reach our people. And this has been the primary goal and focus of his life work till Allah has said otherwise. So we'd like to welcome you on the show tonight, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Sister Janine. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to get us started on our first round of questions. So when we interview guests, we like to get a backstory on what brought them in Islam, because so many come and hear the teachings, but not enough people stay. I will say that. So can you tell us about how did you come into the Nation of Islam, and what made you say the Nation of Islam is for me?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share my experience, and thank you for the opportunity to also testify to the power of the teachings. I appreciate it very much. I'd like to start off with that. And well, I would say it was about the year 2019. 2018, I'm sorry. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from Texas. I've lived here practically my whole life, but I went out there, and it was a very specific moment in my life where I had to make a decision to get to another level in my career at that time as an actor. And so I went out there. I started a different era of life in Atlanta, and it was a point where it was a tumultuous moment in my life. And so I get out there, I get into an agency with a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice and struggle. And when I get into this agency, I started noticing that Atlanta was a place that at that time, I've mentioned this before with other people, with other believers, but I'm not sure if the industry is in the same state as it was then, but they were looking for a lot of Latino and Spanish speaking artists at that time. There wasn't a big Spanish speaking community in the actor scene at that place at that particular time. And so I kind of found this very special period where I fit in. And so I started getting work, and it was this interesting period in my life because it was a period of isolation where I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to read. I had a lot of time to I didn't use this language at that time, but I had a lot of time to learn about myself, knowledge of self. Even though I didn't say that at that time, I was already kind of saying some things and thinking some things that are very related to the teachings that allowed me to think beyond just the material things. And so as I started making some advances and progression in my acting career, I still remember I had my first television show. And this was crazy because I tell this story to my family and to my friends, my close friends sometimes. I don't really say it too much in the public, except one other interview that I did. That place that I was in, I would pray. I was always a believer in God. I wouldn't say I was a very good example of one, if I'm being quite honest. But I always had an affinity to God, and I would always pray to God. And so as I was advancing, I would ask God to kind of like help me in my career because I was giving it my all. I was sacrificing. I was trying to find every avenue to, reach a new level. And as I've told this before, this is not unique to the endeavor or the path of artistry. Every industry or every path of professional, let's say, area in life has its own difficulties, has its own trials, has its own obstacles. And the one that I could tell you in the world of acting is that you're going to starve for a long time. You're not going to make money. People are going to think you're crazy. People are going to criticize you until they don't, until you get on that show or you get on that movie and they clap for you and stuff like that. And that's what happened to me in Atlanta. So it was like kind of like a pinnacle. It was a breakthrough for me when I reached Atlanta, because before then I was in New York, before then I was in Texas, before then I had traveled around doing some independent films in different countries and stuff like that. So it was an amazing time as a young man. However, the confusion that came for me, that eventually led me to the Nation of Islam, going back to your question, was that the things that I thought I was asking God for, today I don't believe that that was God giving it to me. And I'm going to explain why. First of all, not to sound cliche or to repeat the obvious or to repeat the mundane and be over and over, beat it around to death, but Hollywood is probably the most vile and corrupt and evil place in the entire world. And the reason I know this is, well, one, I was in the industry. I didn't live in Hollywood, but I was in the industry of Hollywood. And second, it's the media machine. It's the propaganda machine. So I was constantly trying to go up. But I don't believe today that Allah wanted me to go up because of things I saw, things I've experienced. And as I did my prayers, things did happen. However, at the same time, things would get revealed to me. Sometimes through a dream, sometimes people would openly tell me things or show me things. And I won't share everything, not because it's a secret or anything, just because it would be a long story and some of the other things I've already said, but I'll share some of the experiences I've had. And so in that process of me becoming on the journey of becoming an actor, I met a friend, and that friend, her name is Sabrine Muhammad. She put the message to the Black man of America in my hands. And she, which by the way, I didn't read the book until I was in the Nation of Islam, by the way, but the way she would talk about the minister it intrigued me so much. It fascinated me so much, and I started digging into the lectures, you know, and I did it very slowly, by the way. It was like I'd watch a lecture and then I'd, you know, kind of be like, that was interesting. But I wasn't the kind of person who someone came out and reached out to me or invited me to a meeting or anything like that. For me, my experience was a little bit different. You know, it was literally going to hell here on earth, and then remembering the lectures, you know, and how my friend, I would say, you know, certain things sometimes to my friends, like of things that were happening to me, things I was seeing, you know, people would openly, not to get spooky or anything, but uh, certain people in Hollywood are very openly satanic, openly demonic, and they express it in different types of ways. Um, and that would in moments kind of wake me up, you know. But by then, it's kind of like I felt as if I had sacrificed too much time in my career as an actor. I had finally pushed through. I had finally gotten to a place where sometimes I don't even have to audition. You know, it does something to your ego as
Right.
well when people come up to you and say, "No, you're great. You're this. You're that. You're better than that guy." And even as dead as I was like, "Yeah, something's not right with that. Something's not right with you coming up to me and complimenting me and talking bad about that person. That's kind of weird." But again, I was still very asleep at that point in my spiritual development. And so there came a period after I had done a show called Promised Land on ABC, where the COVID was just about to start. And then I was doing another show called DMZ. Uh, we were right in the middle of shooting the show, and we had to stop production because of COVID. So we came back. I think it was a little less than a year. I can't remember now, but it was something anywhere from like 9 months to a year. I can't remember now. And so we came back, and it was time to shoot. But by the time I came back, you know, I had time to think now. You know, I had time to pray. I was already on the lectures a lot. I mean, I remember at a specific point in time, I would watch the minister's lectures for 6 hours at a time without stopping.
Wow.
And I'm not even exaggerating. I would just watch them day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. And by this time, I had already had some doubts in the industry. So the minister was just calling at me, pulling at my heart, calling at me, pulling at my heart, and scraping parts of my mind that no one had ever done that way. It was like he was a psychologist, and at the same time he was a minister, but at the same time he was like a comedian. At the same time, you know, he's a musician. You know, I when I was younger, I used to play the violin, so I kind of understood. You know, I was like, man. So I know I was like, man, he plays so many different notes of the human psyche that's not normal. I would talk to myself like that's not normal. Someone can't speak like that and everyone can understand. And that would always stick with me. So when I came back to finish uh, the show DMZ, you know, that was already in me, you know, among other things that I was watching too about the vaccine and stuff like that. But one thing I noticed is that the minister was one of the only figures that called out to me, that was talking against the vaccine. And for whatever reason, that brought me peace. I don't understand why that brought me peace. It just brought me a lot of peace to know that that he was fighting for us. And you know, I didn't know him. I had no history of understanding the Nation of Islam. You know, I'm a Mexican American. Both my parents are from Mexico. No one's ever told me anything about the nation. uh, not an uncle, not an aunt, it's just, it's not even like I was actually angry when I heard about the Nation of Islam and the teachings when it started to take an effect on me, because I was like, how come no one ever told me about this?
Wow.
And so once I came back, they told me, a lot of, well, I'll put it this way. After I finished that show, I got an offer for another show. Again, going back to how they get you with the pride and the ego, they said, I had already gotten on that show. They offered me a role in California, and but now I had to get the vaccine. So I declined. I said, no, absolutely not. And I directly correlate not taking the vaccine, and I give thanks to the minister. He's really the one who gave me the strength to say no. But that buffer time, thank Allah, he gave us that buffer time for me to think. And that time to give me think, I believe, it's just my humble opinion, that was when Allah put in those seeds, and he used the minister to do it, and other people as well, but mainly the minister. And so that's how I got into the teachings, and and then some other things progressed and how I actually got into the nation, but that was kind of my introduction.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. And my follow-up question for you before I turn it over to Brother West. So after you have the teachings and you're starting to study, you know the teachings, some people may say, well, I'm conscious. I can still navigate Hollywood without getting caught up. Haven't anybody ever said that to you? And if not, what would you say to somebody who would say that?
Yes, people have said that to me. In particular, well, I'm not gonna mention names, but I'm not trying to put people on blast like that. But and not that even matters who said it, but I remember when I was right about to leave, I was doing this show, and I was already considering leaving. But I didn't understand why I was considering leaving. This was before the vaccine, but something in my spirit, I knew something was off. I just didn't know how to point at it. I didn't know how to intellectualize it, and I most definitely did not know how to communicate it with other people or myself. Because by this time, I had already gotten, how do you say it, a little bit of respect, And by the time I started talking like this, I remember my friends would think I was crazy. And in particular, I remember having one conversation with a specific person saying, no, you can still, talk about great things and do good things in the industry, and we could use your voice. We can use your voice. And I don't want to say that I was wise enough to say that was a trap. I don't think I was that's intelligent yet. Because I wasn't. But something was not clicking, And then the people who were opposed to me and being an artist my whole life now were also kind of saying, why are you throwing it all away? Can't you do this and do that? The truth of the matter is that you can't be in light and you can't be in darkness at the same time. You can't serve God and you can't serve Satan. But the worst thing is that when you know and you're conscious and you do it consciously, well, now I use the language that we're taught in the Nation of Islam is the self-accusing spirit. I didn't have that kind of knowledge and that language at that time, right? So I knew something was off. I knew I was going to, I didn't know I was going against myself yet, but again, going back to the sacrifice you make to become that thing that you're becoming, you finally kind of made it, and now you're in conflict. So I was in a major conflict. Once people came up to me and in their own spooky way, would say demonic things or talk about witchcraft or yeah. I remember the last show I did, DMZ, there was a specific moment where I was sitting on a chair. And by the way, Ava DuVernay, she directed that show.
Mhm.
And I remember that this was my last scene. It was almost like a dramatic kind of movie that I was in. I was sitting on this chair and I was waiting for my scene.
Mhm.
And I was like kind of pensive, you know, almost like not depressed, but just kind of lingering in a state of just what now? And I
Mhm.
looked at the corner of the show was a post-apocalyptic show where we were in New York, and New York was closed off, and New York was its own country, and everything else was the US, and no one could get in. So there was gangs against gangs. So it was like the Latino gang versus the black gang versus the white gang versus the Asian gang, you know, and I was in this Latino gang or whatever.
Mhm.
And we're all fighting for power. And I look and I'm sitting there and I look at the corner of a container, and it says Hades, but it says upside down.
Hmm.
And by then I was already, just kind of getting into knowledge and looking and paying attention to symbolism and the dark world has just like just like every world of I'm sorry, every um all wise people understand symbolism. And
Mhm.
so as I look at that, I'm like, I looked at myself I was talking to myself in my head with great shame and saying, Chris, what are you doing here? You
Mhm.
already know you're not supposed to be here already. What are you doing? And I felt like I had gotten when your parents scold you,
Mhm.
that's how I felt. And no one had scolded me. It was like I knew I had to get out. Um and those are just light little things like that made me realize it was time to transition, it was time to go on. And that even strengthened me more as I was looking where Christianity, this, that. I went to a couple of temples and stuff like that at the time, and nothing satiated me, nothing filled me up until
Mhm.
I came to Islam, and specifically the Nation of Islam, because I tell my friends, it's not that I came to Islam in general. It's not that I didn't agree with it. I just never
Mhm.
understood it, because as a Mexican man, the only people proselytizing in our communities, is our people. You know,
Mhm.
it's I grew up Christian, so I understand the Christian faith. I understand more of the Jehovah Witnesses than I understand, whatever you want to call Orthodox Muslims or whatever. Not to put that down or anything like that. I just mean
Right.
I never understood Islam from that set of eyes or that perspective, because they don't come into our neighborhoods. They don't
Mhm.
come to us, you know?
Mhm.
And so that's one of the reasons why I was like, okay, well, wait, the minister's he's kind of Christian, because that's how the Christians do it. I grew up like that. I was like, I like
Mhm.
that. But he's given this whole other perspective, this whole other set of circumstances that is bringing peace to me. Now I knew I was on the right direction. And so as
Mhm.
I let go of that, of Hollywood, it became easier and easier to get strengthened by something else.
Mhm. Right.
And it just happened to be that the minister was there. And the people who brought me in, of course, I mean, I don't pretend to say I made it here alone, because I did not. No one does. But that's kind of the introductory
Mhm.
message to how I arrived at Islam, and how it kind of started to clean me up, and how the industry literally vomited me out.
Mhm.
Literally vomited me out, and it didn't let me go. By the way,
Mhm.
after that, I remember when I left, they tried to get me back, and I was like, I already told you I'm out.
Mhm.
And so my student study group coordinator told me, you must be doing something right, Brother Malik, senior.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you must be doing something right, because if they're coming back and trying to pique your interest again, it must be that you're on the path. I didn't know anything about handlers and all that at the time, but Hollywood really does have people who handle you, and all that's true. That is not conspiracy talk. I can absolutely confirm that that's true.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And before I turn it over to Brother West, I want to get to a question that was in the chat. I don't want to miss it. Let me go to it. Okay. So Brother Aaron is asking, how did the movie TV industry respond to you knowing that you were a part of the Nation of Islam? You touched on a little bit at the end on here.
That's a good question. I'll start it this way. A certain, let's say, group of people, I don't want to say Nation of Islam. Only one person that I know of was angry, but I didn't know about it until later on. So this was way before I was even thinking about leaving the industry, before I was thinking about the Nation of Islam like that. The Rizza Islam made a post when the vaccine came out on Instagram, I believe, and it was like cut up with like I'm gonna have to look, because that was my old profile that I took down after I left the industry. I was just angry at everybody, and I just took it down, and I never recovered my old profile. But it was something that Rizza posted, and I reposted it. And I remember I lost a lot of friends. But I wasn't even thinking that. I was like, well, like, I didn't know how controversial the minister was. Not that I really cared, but I just wasn't even thinking about that, to be honest with you. I wasn't like, oh, the minister's against, Satan and this and that. You see, I was very lost like that. I didn't draw the connections yet. I remember certain people did unfriend me and stuff like that because he was speaking against the vaccine. And the industry is was at that time, it was very pro-vaccine. And so, yes, some people did act negatively. Some others, the people who supported me also were not the people I thought would support me. I was very surprised by that as well. Some friends who still support my decision of coming to Islam, coming to the Nation of Islam, who still to this day, who I've shared, the book, The Message of Black Man in America, some family members as well. I was not expecting that. But to the ones who disagree with me, most of them, the grand majority of them, kept very quiet, with the exception of one person who actually respected me enough to call me. But it wasn't necessarily against the Nation of Islam. It was more just like, oh, you're going to faith, or like you believe in the last day, what? Like stuff like that. So I would say in the Latino community, we don't really have that history. We don't have that. Again, I learned about the Nation of Islam in my 30s. I was like 33 when I learned about the Nation of Islam for my first time. So I was very shocked. I was like, wow, all this is brand new, but for my Black friends, they were like, I've known about that since I was a kid. So, in the Latino community, we don't really have that point of reference, unfortunately, yet. So hopefully that changes. But yes, there was some, but it wasn't a big thing per se.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brother West, who has some questions for you that he would like to ask. So, Brother West, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Brother West. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well as well.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. It's great to have you on.
Thank
so
you,
my
brother.
first question I want to get us started off with. I want to ask you, how will you or have you already use some of your acting or performing skills in the nation? And is that something you plan on doing in general?
Oh man, my sister asks me this all the time. My blood sister, she's always asking me if I'm gonna use my skill, if I'm gonna dump it. My father too, he does the same thing. No, no, I haven't used it per se. I haven't used my acting skill per se in a, let's put it this way, in a theatrical way or in a dramatic way or in some type of cinematic um, project, to be more specific. No. However, it's in my blood. I can't get that out of me. I have to express it somehow at some point. I am considering certain things at this time. Uh, However, also I'm taking on a new journey of becoming a farmer. Um, I've been studying certain things. I've been practicing uh, some gardening in the communities, in the community. I'm sorry, and starting my new venture as a farmer. That's my hope. I really want to take that on. However, I'm not against uh, the art of expression, obviously, because again, that still calls me very much, um, very much. But have I used it in the Nation of Islam? I hope soon that I find. I am working on something creative right now, but it's not really acting. It's more like on the producing end. Um, but I hope soon maybe I can try to write something. But I'm not going to speak on that too much right now because I don't I don't want to say something that I'm not going to do. So, but hopefully Allah will put something on my heart to get those creative juices flowing again. Because I'm telling you, brothers, whenever I get around my friends and we start talking projects and movies and stuff like that, man, I get carried away. So hopefully soon, something comes. Inshallah, brother, inshallah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sounds like you working on something for sure. I'm excited to see what it might be. But you did mention farming. That was one of my questions as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about the farming that you're already practicing and how you got started with it in general?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question.
Yes,
So
sir.
it was, I said 2023, but really the conception of it happened when I was a young boy. My uncle, my father's older brother, he always constantly gardened, different types of things, strawberries and watermelons and cucumbers and all kinds of things in our backyard. At that time, we lived together for a little while, and when I was about 33 years old or so, 30, it was early 30s. I remember I was in my apartment in Atlanta, and an idea came in my head of you have to farm, you have to farm, and I was kind of like asking myself, why do I have to farm? Then a memory came back. It was like one of those memories that just like popped out of nowhere. And I was in the garden with my uncle and my dad, and my uncle was showing me the strawberries. He was showing me I think it was strawberries and watermelons, I believe. And I'll never forget that. I was like, oh yeah, the memory it was always in me. It's just it had to come out through a set of circumstances and through through in an organic way. And I think that that's kind of, my uncle was always pushing me, always talking about, grow your own food, grow your own food, grow to this day, he still pushes me, and we still um vie together and convene all the time, like when we have ideas and we share seeds and all that. So my uncle's a very big part of my life when it comes to that part of my interest in farming. And so some years ago, I came up with this idea that why don't we just start farming in our communities, just gardens. Then I come into the nation and I see the ministers talking about community gardens, those victory gardens. I was like, what? So again, it was just confirming that I'm in the right spot, because I was like, this is what I've been thinking about for so many years. And now I come here and you're saying the same thing. Wow. So I look up at God and I'm like, I'm at the right spot. I'm at the right spot. And so yeah, it's always, well, not always, but it's been a dream it's been a vision of mine for a very long time to take our neighborhoods and transform them and make them independent of Kroger, independent of Walmart, independent of Target, independent of Fiesta, independent of any type of corporation that makes us beg them to eat their horrible, despicable food. So if we could just do that on a small level, it is my humble opinion and belief that we can inspire the youth in particular to do the same wherever they're at. Because one of the things, brother, that really angers me, and I must use that word, anger, is that people have a lot of great ideas, but they tend to monopolize them, brother. They tend to want to get a lot of accolades and this and that. And there's nothing wrong with getting fame or attention or let's say money for your. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in particular. However, I do not believe it is the right way to take knowledge and information and hoard it. Take knowledge and information and make it a singular leader of a movement, and then everyone else kind of depends on that leader for guidance. No, we should all be farmers. We should all be spreaders of the word, just like we spread the word of Allah, just like we spread the teachings. So one of my goals is to, once I establish a beachhead, if you want to use that word, to allow the youth to do their own things, allow farmers to take a system, improve upon it, and copy it. That's really the goal of this thing, so that people could copy this thing. We could have clean food around the block. I want to get my microgreens from my brother over here, Juan, and then I want my brother from the nation over there to grow the potatoes or the tomatoes or the lettuce or the peaches or whatever. That's like a dream of mine, to not have to depend on nobody. And so I think that the time that we're living in today, without a shadow of a doubt, is definitely bringing us into the realization that we either do that or we die. So it's no time to have fear or to have any type of doubt that we can do this. I'm starting to realize, even though farming has its learning curves and there's difficulties within farming, because there is a learning curve, there's other crops that are not so difficult to grow that will still give you a yield, boost your confidence, and you can learn as you go. And so Brother Malik Sr., my student FOI coordinator, he's been a big part of that too, because he's pushing us, he's instilling and creating the environment for us to do that as well. And so I think that if we just try to understand that all we have to do is stick with an idea and get with like-minded people. And that's what my brother told me, Brother Malik Sr. So I believe that. I believe that. And so I'm just applying that. Hopefully that's what happens sooner than later, and before we kind of are running out of time. So that's why I think that farming is such an important, I want to use the word principle. It's not the correct word, but let's just use that word. Let's just go with it. I look at it as a principle because it is a foundation of civilization. It's the first work, because without food, we don't have life.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I like that concept because that's true. Like the minister said, farming is the engine of our national life. So we really should be fueling our nation ourselves, really. My next question is actually going to be from Brother Tony in the audience here. He says,
Tony.
He says, mi querido hermano, my beloved brother, assalamu alaikum. What have been some of your most rewarding moments and wins as a registered member of the Nation of Islam? That was actually one of my questions.
Mi querido hermano Tony Muhammad. Thank you. Walaikum salam, brother Tony. So many, brother. So many. But in particular, I would say that one day I was praying. I was at a moment in my life where I needed some help. I needed some guidance. And I don't know where this came from because I didn't have the knowledge yet. But I prayed for supreme wisdom. I don't even know where that came from. Like it just spewed out of my mouth. It just went, like, God, give me supreme wisdom. I didn't even call God Allah yet. And a couple of years later, I'm in the Nation of Islam, learning supreme wisdom. So God heard my prayer and then brought me to the Nation of Islam where we get supreme wisdom, meaning God listens to me and he guided me. And even though I was rebellious, brother, I was rebellious for many years. You know, I used to drink, I used to smoke. I did what everybody did in the world, you know, and God took me out of that. He saved me. You know, I could have just went like that. And so for me, that is the great win. The great win is realizing that God had mercy on me. He brought me to the right place, and then the rest is just up to our own level of obedience or level of desire to get the work done. But I would say the greatest moment or the win that I realized that God actually literally, not symbolically, not metaphorically, literally hears you and says, I got you. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be there's definitely going to be so many moments of difficulty, so many obstacles, but I'm listening to you. And so when I realized that God was listening to my prayers and helping me this way and helping me that way, I had to bow. I had to bow and say, oh, this is the truth. This is the truth. The minister's the truth, you know? And if he's the truth, then Elijah Muhammad must be the truth. And if Elijah Muhammad's the truth, then Master Far Muhammad must be the truth. So just realizing that made me so happy. And then there's one other story that I have, and I'll just say it briefly because I've already said this before. But I would love to share this with you, Brother West, and Brother Tony. I saw the minister at the international training. What was it? 2024, I believe. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think it was 2024. I saw him up close. I didn't get to meet him in person, but I saw him up close. And the next day when I got home, a baby plane showed up to my house. So again, just reiterating, and just not to be redundant, but that if you're in a place and you have a little bit of a doubt, and then you get there and they actually show you, hey, look, it's there. That's a win. It's like God's telling you, I have mercy on you. I'm showing you that it's truth. You're asking me, and now I'm telling you, and I'm going to show you. And so, you know, it still brings, I'm not ashamed to say, but it brings tears to my eyes to know that God listens to us that way, you know, that he protects us, that he guides us, that he moves things out of our way. He blocks people out of our way. And, you know, that brings me so much joy, brother, and peace, brother. So I would say that's one of the most rewarding wins that I've had as a registered member in the Nation of Islam thus far.
All praises due to Allah. That's wonderful. And I like that you spoke on just how that connected to the minister as well, and seeing that baby plane, like you see, it's just the energy that you felt. I think that was wonderful. My next question I did want to ask you, if you could speak on the brotherhood that is amongst the brothers in the Nation of Islam. I feel like you really can't find it anywhere else, in a fraternity, in a bowling group. I'm not sure, like any other group you can name, you just can't find that same level of brotherhood. But can you share what that looks like for you?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. That's my favorite question. That's my favorite question.
Sir.
Thank you, brother Tony. Tony, I love my brother Tony. I love my brother Abel. I love my brother Malik Senior, brother Malik Junior, Calvin, Corey. Shout out to brother Ezra, Warren. Man, so many good brothers. So many. I'm sorry for forgetting some names. There's a lot of brothers. I'll tell you this, brother. I'll tell you this. I'll put it this way. You could have brotherhood, but without the purpose part, without that part of the equation, there's not the click, you know? I remember my friend who said this. No, Ezra, brother Ezra, okay? My brother, who's in our study group. He said something that I thought, that's what amazes me about how Allah brings us together in a certain fashion, you know? He said, at a certain point in my development, I was looking for people to do something with. Where are all these God people? Where are all these revolutionary people? And I was like, brother, that's what I was thinking. Well, wait, and then boom, and then we're here. So the brotherhood is crazy, you know, like the brothers in Waxahachie study group, for example, Kadir, Hassan, Nasir, shout out to my brothers. They are they're some of the most disciplined brothers that I know. When it comes to fishing, they're so like, they got the system, you know, online, they got a system like in person where, you know, and they've taught us so much. So brotherhood's great and all, but brotherhood with that purpose, that God purpose, that purpose to lift us all up. I'm not the best at it yet. I still got a lot of learning to do. I still got a lot of studying to do. I still have a lot of things that I need to improve on. However, I see those examples that brother Malik Senior has given us, and who has kind of strived to these certain kind of standards amongst other people in the nation, of course, but mainly him, because of course that's what I see, you know, every day almost. And so having that structure, that purpose to take our people out the mud, it's a different type of camaraderie, brother. It's a different type of friendship. It's the bond is like it's stronger than blood, brother. And I don't mean this in a loose way, brother. I don't mean this. I'm just not throwing words out there, because sometimes people get a little confused when you say I love you, and they'll be like, man, he's just saying that, man. He's just talking some mess. He don't mean that. I'm gonna test him. I like that. I like when people think like that and talk like that, because they're right. They're right. But this brotherhood, brother, we have to be tested, brother. Otherwise, how do you know it's real? How do you know what we're striving to do for our people is real? Because this is by far the most difficult mission, by far, hands down. There's nothing more difficult than this. I'm just saying that, like, to be in that mission with other brothers who accept something as difficult as this is and still have a good spirit. You know, we have our difficulties. Listen, we have our days. You know, things happen to us. That's life, right? But nonetheless, you know, being there next to a soldier, it's cool. You know, it's, brother. I don't even know how to put it into words, brother. Like, sometimes I feel kind of at a loss for words, or I know we're not supposed to be emotional, but you know, sometimes you feel a special type of love to see someone who's put a certain level of sacrifice for this, you know, and you don't understand it from the outside in. I didn't. You get in this, you're like, oh, I get what it takes now. You got to give your wealth, you got to give your time, you got to give your mind, you got to give your spirit, you got to give your heart, you got to give your creativity, your imagination, and then some. How could you not love your brothers who are actually doing that? And again, I'm glad I didn't know the full extent of the mission. I'm kind of happy. I like the fact that I don't want to say that you're ignorant at first, but Allah knows what He's doing, and Allah knows how to gradually put you in things. But yes, the brotherhood is by far one of the best things in the Nation of Islam, and I pray that we grow in the ranks, because I think about how my family and the community here where I live needs the teachings. It just inspires me to study more. It inspires me to get the word out more, to get more people on the word. My little nephew the other day, he's 7 years old. He was asking me about he's 7 years old. He's asking me about the teachings. He's telling me, like, who's Elijah Muhammad? What's the wheels? And this, he's 7. And so things like that, just motivate me. I know I had nothing to do with the brotherhood per se in that question specifically, but it leads me to the whole gambit of what we're talking about, and how it's important to strengthen our bond, so that the word can get out quicker. And one key one mind that we unlock changes changes reality, if you will. So yes, brother, I love the brotherhood very much.
All praise is due to Allah. I really like how you just gave a very well-rounded answer, because I remember Sister Wida actually told me this. She said that the minister said the 3 best ways to get to know a brother are going out to soldier with him, going to dinner with him, and there was one more. I can't remember. I was trying to remember. Sister Wida in the chat. If you remember, if you could put those 3 things below. But that just really reminded me of your answer for sure, that you just get to grow with different men, different brothers, even from your city, across the nation, from wherever, that have the same mission, and you're able to soldier with them. It's definitely a wonderful thing. And my next question for you, before we go to our station ID, I want to ask you about any advice that you might have for other young men out there, or even men that might be older than you as well, concerning the Nation of Islam. I know that, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, a lot of people might know about it. They might know some misconceptions about it, but it's different to actually come to the mosque to get your own perception, get your own perspective. So what advice do you have for those people out there, as far as actually learning more about the nation for themselves?
Thank you, brother, for that question. That's a good question. That's a really good question, and I think that's pertinent to the time we're living in. And I'll put it this way: just recently, 2 people told me, they commented on something, and this is going to sound a little strange, but I'll tell you how I can connect it. They told me in different words, but they said the same message. From the outside in, do you know how we see you? Y'all look unattainable. I didn't know how to respond. I don't know what you mean by unattainable. Y'all look too clean for us. I was like, wow, okay, well, interesting. But at the same time, when they said that, they're still asking questions. They're still there. They're not repulsed by you. They still love you. And I see a lot of people attracted to the things that I would never thought would be something that I would, let's say, I wouldn't think before I was in knowledge that particular aspect would be attractive. An example: structure, order, discipline. I mean, I was probably the most unstructured, most undisciplined. I mean, I had aspects of discipline and aspects of structure, but I mean, in general, in my life, personally, spiritually, health-wise, no. And so, coming into the nation, the one thing that I love the most, well, no, there's tons of things I love, but one of the things I didn't think I would love so much was the structure part, was the sacrifice part. I didn't think I would enjoy that so much. I don't know why I enjoy the structure part so much, because that's not how I was. Like, that wasn't my environment. That wasn't my like I wasn't so military about things. And so what I would say to people, a young brother, a young sister who's thinking about the Nation of Islam, is like, you don't have to join right away. I didn't join right away. I studied the teachings for 2 years before I even thought of coming to a study group. I sat in my room studying lectures over and over and over and over and watch them. And one day I fell in love with the minister. I remember, I fell in love with him. And I was like, and I sat there and thinking to myself, I'm like, how in the, I don't even know who he is. Like, how is this even possible? I'm like, man, he's the most gangster, revolutionary / intellectual / man of God that I've ever seen in my life. Like, where does this even come from? How come I've never heard of this? And so I was becoming attracted magnetically to the attractive powers of discipline, of order. And I was like, that's what I need. I need that part in my life, especially as a young teenager. You don't think that that's what you need until you need it. You don't think that you need a seatbelt until you're in a wreck. You don't think you need to eat well until you get sick and you're on your deathbed and you have stage 4 cancer. So we tend to kind of criticize things we don't understand. But if you just come and hear the word, and if it touches you, it is my belief that there's something there for you. Doesn't mean you have to join right away, but come and get the knowledge. Go back home and use it. Go back home and apply it and test it. And if you test it and that knowledge that you learned actually changes the condition of your life and starts to have an effect around the people that you encounter in your daily life, well, then guess what? You've just touched on truth. You've just been blessed by Allah to actually have an encounter with truth. And so, just speaking personally, I didn't think that that's the aspect of the Nation of Islam that I would be so attracted to, but it turned like that was the most attractive part to me. And it even shocked me. I was like, wow, that's not what I thought I would like the most, but man, that's what I like the most. Among other things, there's many other aspects of the Nation of Islam that I would say that are very beneficial to us as young men. Not just beneficial to Muslims, beneficial to Christians, beneficial to Jews, beneficial to agnostics. The minister even talked about atheists, that how they have a hate for religion because of the hypocrisy in religion. So if the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is talking about that, talking to atheists like that, and even showing them some compassion and how they have been jaded with the world of religion, then what makes us so hateful toward our Christian brothers and to our Muslim brothers and to our whatever brother, Hebrew Israelite brothers? And so, that's what the Nation of Islam does. It gives you a well-rounded perspective of reality. And that's what I would say is one of the main aspects that I fell in love with.
All praises due to Allah. That's wonderful. And like Sister Latifah said, Nation of Islam definitely provides that structure, discipline, and order that the people on the outside say that they, can't attain, is waiting right here for you. So I definitely agree with that advice, 100%. And family, we now want to go to our station ID and just remind you that you are listening to WHID-FM. We thank you for tuning in and spending your valuable time, because without you, there is no WHID-FM. If you have any suggestions, please email us at WHID 1919@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe to WHID-FM on YouTube and follow us on Facebook if you haven't already. And next, our guest will be for next week, inshallah, Brother Malik and Sharif Muhammad from Muhammad Mosque number 15 in Atlanta. Make sure you tune in right back here, WHID-FM, 7 p.m. every Sunday for that wonderful episode. And family, we will return right back after these messages. All praises due to Allah. Definitely make sure to support Black independent education by going to thesupremebeanpod.com. Each donation, all of the profits from the Supreme Bean Pod are donated to MUI, Muhammad University of Islam. So if you would like to further your own education, go ahead and make sure to either purchase a bean pod or you can make a donation. So praise be to Allah. And now my next question before we turn it back over to Sister Janine for her questions. Brother Christopher, I want to ask you, what has Islam done for you? If you had to put it in a nutshell, if you had to summarize it, if you had to briefen it, if you will, if you could name just some of the benefits and blessings that you received just by becoming a member of the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for the question. The best one. Wow. Yes. Hence the show, right? So the best things that I could think of that Islam has done for me is, one, it has brought me peace. It has brought me clarity. It has brought me truth. It has brought me understanding. And it has brought me knowledge of self. So I remember there was one specific moment where I was considering, I was with my father in McAllen. My dad was doing some activism for the way they were treating our Venezuelan migrant brothers. And my father was doing all kinds of protests, and he made this big old flag, went to the border, and he went on the American side, from the Mexican side to the American side, and they threw him in jail for a couple of days. It was kind of I was a little worried because there was a potential that he was going to go to prison for a year, and so I was a little kind of a little upset with him, because I was like, man, Dad, why'd you do that? Because these crazy devils they're gonna have you in their system now. But the way my dad was just cool, calm, and collected, he just kind of, yeah, it's gonna be all right. And at that time, I was watching this lecture by Mother Taineta, and then I think it was Brother Abel. And Brother Abel, he started talking about, I think it was like the black, brown, and it said black, brown, and Mexicans or something like that. And I never saw that connection. Again, coming back to the knowledge of self, I didn't make those connections. That I always tell my friends this. I was like, specifically my brother Ezra, I tell him all the time, and my brother Warren, I never would have made this connection. Never. I would have never made the connection of the Bible and Nation of Islam. I had never made the connection of the black, the brown, the red, the yellow, and the reality of God and the reality of the devil. I would have never. I don't think I could have read books for a long time. I don't think I would have came to those conclusions by myself. I'm not even ashamed to say it. I'm telling you that the way the minister, the way Elijah Muhammad, the way Master Fard Muhammad have set things up to where we must unite because we're a family, that brought me an understanding of myself. Now I knew where to go, because I was always in a constant, a state of lingering, like, what now? That went away. Now I know where to go. I'm here. I arrived. I know where I'm at now. I know who I am finally. Now I could walk the correct way and not stumble in the dark, And so that knowledge of self brought me peace. That knowledge of self is truth. That truth brought me clarity. And so, Islam has really began a process that's just, it's just exponential. Like I say, I got a long way to go. I'm just a baby in Islam, of course. But I just hope that that Allah keeps blessing our people to keep going in that direction, because Islam, we're not anti-Christian. I don't know whoever told us this. Again, going back to the propaganda, going back to the machine that pits one against the other. If you just see the work that's being done, you would quickly see that the biggest lie being told is by the people who do nothing for us, and we have to do for ourselves what our enemy will never do for us. And so if you just look around, there ain't that many people doing it. And so it's beautiful to come together with other people of other faiths, and try to, use our spirits, our minds, our wealth, if we're blessed with whatever we're blessed with, mostly our time in our bodies, so that we could lift each other up, and that's what I love about this the most. It's not like we just reading all day and praying all day. No, it's like there has to be results. We have to, if at one point, it's like Brother Malik Senior, he's always telling us, he's like, if you go in a room and there's a big heavy table, and you pushing it all day, and at the end of the day that table didn't go anywhere, did you really do anything? No. And so I've seen a progression of what Islam can do for others and myself, and I see that, like, I don't think the same as I did a year or 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. And so, that's Islam. Islam gives you power. And so, yeah, I'm blessed, and I'm happy to finally have a much clearer grasp on what our path is and what our potential is. Because man, we have so much power, but if we just sit back and doubt ourselves, if we sit back and just take what's happening in the mainstream, and we don't ever sit down and say, okay, but what am I going to do about it? What is the solution? What is the plan? That's what Islam is really about. What is the plan? You could be well versed in Quran, you could be well versed in Scripture, Old and New Testament, and okay, you could wear a nice suit and a bow tie and have nice hair and look nice and skin looking good. But if my brother's suffering in the street, what does it matter? That's what I like about this. What I like about it is it's not about us having and you not having. We all got to have truth. And that's what I saw here. That's what I saw in the Nation of Islam, because at first I was a little, I'll be honest with you, brother, I was a little hesitant to join, because I was like, man, I heard black this and black that and black power, blah, 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 and I was just like, man, I was like, is that even for me? And it turns out it is more for me than I thought it was, and so, not because I was scared or anything like that. I just, I didn't understand the teachings. I didn't understand the nation. And then, I saw Brother Abel and, his teaching. Then I saw Mother Taineta, and then that took me to Brother Rasul, and all these other videos were, in lectures that that I saw that were speaking to the Mexican community, to the Latino community, to South America and Central America, and then I saw all the other connections with, you know, all our other brothers in other parts of the world, where I was like, oh, so this is for the original peoples, you know. But again, even I had a diluted and misperception of what that meant at that time, because again, like, when you're lost, brother, you're lost. You know, you don't know what's up from down. And I was, as I said in the study group on Friday, not only did I not know I was awake, I was fast asleep, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. I mean, I'm not proud of saying it, but it's just the reality. And so what Islam has done it's given me a firm grasp of who I am and where I can go. And that's what I want for our people.
All praises due to Allah. I like how you said that seeing Brother Abel and other brothers that are more on the Latino side or Hispanic side just showed you that there is more for you than you know. I feel like that is something we should do more as brothers in the Nation of Islam, sisters in the Nation of Islam, is bridging that gap. Inshallah, we'll see more of that in the future. I want to thank you for answering my questions, some of our audience's questions. And with that, we're going to turn it back over to Sister Janine for some more of hers.
Thank you, Brother Wes. I know time is winding down, so we just have a couple of more questions for you. One of the questions that I have, speaking of Mother Tanetta, you made me think of this. Mother Tanetta, she had talked about Master Fard Muhammad pointing out, you know, in the 30s that there were scientists working in the industry in Hollywood that were helping to project future events and films to prepare the public for what's to come. So when you were on the set doing the show DMZ, is there any interesting things that you see when you look at scripts and be like, man, this script is right into the teachings?
Thank you, Sister Janine, for that question. I'm telling you, you're making me okay. Sometimes I cringe a little bit when I talk too much about myself, to be honest with you, because I don't know, maybe that's a self-limiting belief or something like that. But I'll tell you a couple of not experiences, but realizations I had when I came into the nation. I was looking one day, I don't even know why. I got a message from my agent, and he offered me to come back to the agency, you know, and I declined, you know. And then he came back some other time after that, and then he said, "Oh, we're gonna have to let you go." I was like, "What? I thought I already told you I left the industry, you know." Mm-hmm. But then that brought me to a thought. I was like, I don't know why, something told me, like, look at your IMDb. I looked at my IMDb, and I was looking at it for whatever reason. I don't know why. I was looking at it, and then it hit me. I believe the statement to be true because another brother from the Dallas Mosque told me that very thing. His name is Brother Fatah. He told me that thing, and it was the first time I heard what you just told me. He said to me, and I pondered on it, and I told him this. I hope he's listening. He's a good brother. He said, I told him, brother, I did a series of projects with very kind of biblical references, and one of the first ones was I did a short film way before I was in the nation, and my character's name was Lewis, and the name of this is crazy. The name of the short film was called The Traveling Man.
Wow.
That blew my mind. Then I was in a show called Queen of the South. Now that's a biblical character, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's biblical. In the show, there was a character called Boaz, right?
Yeah.
You know what my character's name was called?
Elias, right?
Elias,
yeah, I remember.
Elias. Now, here's the crazy part. They were going to kill my character off, and they did kill my character off, and they were going to resurrect me as another character.
Wow, okay.
It's crazy that it's already in you. You know, like I was
Mhm.
like, wait, what? How is that even possible? Like, what are the connections? So
Hmm.
I do believe what you just told me, that statement, to be true, because in Hollywood, I'll give you another one. I'll give you another example. Um, I found out recently that I'll give you. I talk about this one. This one gets kind of boring because everyone hears it all the time. But like, for example, like um the the um the birthday of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for example,
Mhm.
it's October 7th, 1897. Well, that adds up to 33, right?
Mhm.
You take the birthday of Master Fard Muhammad, February 26th, was it 1877? Also
Mhm.
33, correct?
Mhm.
So if you look at like the Matrix, when Neo goes to the door, the first
Mhm.
door is 11. Now 11 is also connected to the minister,
Mhm.
right? The very first door is 11, where he says, he mentions and he references to Jesus, you are my Lord and Savior, personal Lord and Savior, right?
Mhm.
But the second door, when he goes to see the oracle, now it's a 33. And so,
Wow.
how would they put those
Wow.
messages in there and why? If you go back and you study the movies, you're going to see these
Wow.
codes everywhere. And in the beginning of the movie of The Matrix, if you look at when it has all of the symbols in the cryptic language, in the very beginning on the top left, there's
Mhm.
a 369 and it adds up to a 369. This is another number and a pattern and a sequence that repeats itself throughout the teachings. And Allah's been showing me this. I don't really mention this. I've never mentioned this in public, but except to my friends and stuff. But I see it all over the teachings. It's like all over the teachings. It's the last page of the Malama Muhammad Ali Quran.
Mhm.
There's a 369 at the end. The Spanish version too is a 369 at the end. It's all over.
Mhm.
And that's in the movie, the 33s, the 20. So I do believe what you're
Mhm.
saying to be true, because numbers you can't mess, like that's math, is it's impenetrable. Like math is
Wow.
math, right? And so I have an absolute belief that that's the truth, and I'm also a 33. My birthday adds up to a 33 as well. So that's kind of the crazy part, that it added up to like that. And then I'm like
Mhm.
it brought me to the teachings in that way. Like I was seeing these numbers before I came into the Nation of Islam, and then I was noticing certain things in films too,
Mhm.
that was like, oh wait, that's coded, that's encrypted. And then I get to the Nation, and then Brother Malik Senior is telling me like, yeah, this movie, it's really talking about the teachings in the Nation and this and that. Look how it's just coded. And I was like,
Hmm.
leading me to believe that, of course, yes, there has to be someone there guiding that. I believe
Right.
it 100%, Sister Janine.
Now it's interesting. I know I just had to ask it because it's interesting you said that, right? Because like the Matrix, that's probably the film for me that I watch, and I see the spiritual all through that. But it's interesting you mentioned Queen of the South, and that's the reason I had a question for it. I know it because my husband watched like 5 times the whole series. Literally, he's probably on his 6th time. He's just watching today. It's crazy. But those characters you name, do you think in those kind of movies, because of course the main character, Teresa Mendoza, was a drug dealer. So do you think in those kind of movies they're trying to merge truth with falsehood, or what is it that they're dropping that inside that type of film?
Now that's a good question, and that's where we get into the whole philosophical slash conspiracy kind of debate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to my knowledge, to the limited knowledge that I have, but to some of the stuff that I've studied over the years, yes and no. Yes and no. I
Okay.
do know that there are truth seekers in Hollywood, um, and there are conscious people in that world. Obviously, absolutely, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some things can go over our heads because there's so many levels to this. I mean, there's so many levels to this. I do believe that certain people with influence are trying to put truth out. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
They have to code it. I mean, the minister said, he said this about Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory's not a comedian. You know,
Right,
he said it.
right,
He's just wrapped up. That's his vessel. He's
right.
dropping truth, you know. So I do believe that some people are attempting to put out truth, but this is just my belief. This is just my belief. I don't mean to beat up on nobody because I can get kind of aggressive sometimes with this point. My friends know, but I don't think that's good enough, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because, you know, if that was the way, then that would have already been the solution. You
Right.
know, just come here and we'll give you truth here. You know, it's like, what's all this loop around and code this and code that? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? But do I believe that certain people are trying to put truth out there? Absolutely. But since the synagogue of Satan controls Hollywood, controls the airwaves, uh, controls sports, you know, controls politicians, you know, of course, everything's tied to their financial well-being. So, you know, they have to find creative ways and how to put out the messages. But one of the big questions for me also is like, how much is real and how much is just deviation? Because, you know, the CIA is involved. You know, there's a great documentary about that called uh, I forget the name, but there's a specific documentary that I watched. It'll come back to me in a little bit. Talking about this very topic where the CIA is involved in writing scripts. Why would the CIA be involved in writing scripts? It's to further, you know, cause confusion within, you know, the people who want to know truth. So again, I do believe that there is. However, it's a tampered fountain, a tampered source of information. So you know, I look at it, I do extract gems for movies. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, I take it with a grain of salt, you know, and I just kind of like,
Understand.
okay, you know what I mean? Kubrick was doing some things, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but those people are, Sister Janine, that they're, I don't mean no disrespect, but
Yes,
most
sir.
of them are insane. They're
Wow.
literally insane people. So I take it with a grain of salt and kind of, you know, like, yes, like I love you, but you know,
Got
I'm
it.
over here now. So like,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Now, and the final question we have from you is from Brother Jamal. He's asking, having lived in both the entertainment world and now in the agricultural one, what parallels do you see between the two, and how has your creative background shaped your vision for farming and community building?
Mm. Oh man, great, great. I was just thinking about that too. These a lot of these questions are good. Well, it's very correlated because the creative process is multifaceted and it connects to every aspect of our life. I mean, if you just look at the, for example, like my father, he likes to paint, for example, you know, and I tell him a lot of things that you're struggling with right now. Like, I understand your struggle because like it's the same kind of struggle in acting, you know. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same struggle in again, similarities because it's a different expression or a different art form, but the struggle is the same. As I've been farming, I've been noticing that you have to be very creative in order to get over certain humps, you know, in the process of farming. And you know, it's crazy to go from acting to farming, and people tell me that all the time. Why'd you go to farming? Like, what did you know? But touching the ground, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it releases this thing in your brain. I don't know how to explain it. Taking seed, putting it in the ground, and then watching that multiply into infinity. There's something about that that just fascinates me, you know. And then allowing people to see it and then copy your idea and then go over there and copy it, I'm all for it. Copy all you want. You know what I mean? Not that people are copying me, but if they do at one point when it has enough merit to be copyable, not that at that stage yet, then all be it. And that's the best correlation I have from acting to farming, that it's very creative. You know, you have to get creative on um, um, how you prepare your soil. You know, how you tend to your plants, how you talk to your plants. Well, when you're preparing for a character, you have to talk to yourself. You have to put the seed in your mind. You have to put the seed and the desire in your heart to want to do a good job and to bring out that certain type of spirit that character calls for. And so it's very, very, very similar in certain components, and another world and other components, obviously, because it's night and day and physically. However, if you look at it spiritually, creative, imaginative expression, well, that's everywhere. That's literally like everything we do creates that type of thought process. And so as I'm farming now, I'm like, man, like, farming doesn't mean I have to be some recluse. It doesn't mean I have to be a hermit. No, I have to be able to talk to my neighbor. You know, I have to be able to communicate with my neighbor properly for them to understand what I'm doing. So maybe, hey, maybe that might spark some type of an idea in my neighbor or his youth or whatever. So like you know, that may sound like an odd answer, but how I'm doing it, I do see a lot of similarities, because like it sparks creative juices just the way it did whenever I was coming up with characters with my friends, when we were just messing around and trying to imitate, like, you know, Obama and all this kind of, like, we're just coming up with voices to make us laugh and stuff like that, or like characters, you know, like we do certain characters and stuff. It's just like, just to see, like, you know. But farming is the farming is something that truly it makes me feel more useful. If someone in 50 years from now, or 100 years from now, or 200 years from now say, what was our brother about? He was a farmer. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'd feel like that if I would say I was an actor, to be honest with you. You know, not that I look down on actors. I don't. I still, like, even though this is going to sound contradictory to what I said, I still have a lot of friends in the industry that I love. I still have a lot of friends who are athletes. I still have a lot of friends who are in the industry who I respect, admire, and love. I'm not speaking down on anybody at any moment or point in time. I don't want to be belligerent or disrespectful. It's just, anyways, I thought I'd add that in there. But the creative process definitely does leak into farming, because it's you have to be creative to get past obstacles. You have to. It's there's no other way. There's no other way.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. We definitely thank you for, you know, being on the show and answering our questions. You know, for one, I must say I really enjoyed this interview, and I know our audience, you know, has as well. As they were, you know, lighting up the comments in the chat. And we definitely appreciate you, and we hope to have you back on again. So we definitely appreciate your time. Family, we just have a few announcements before we close out today. If you enjoyed this interview today, and I'm sure you have, you're invited to study with the Nation of Islam, to study and learn with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, by going to www.noi.org/go study. We have weekly webcasts every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, go to NOI.org to learn what is coming up in February for our national event, Savior's Day, February 19th to the 22nd. So go to www.noi.org for more information. Final Call Radio, download it on all your devices, take it with you on the go. Whether you're going to work, you're going to school, or just running some errands, there's nothing better to play in your ear than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan 24/7. It will enlighten your mind, it will enlighten your children's mind. We really got to turn our mind around as far as what we think and what we play in the background and our subconscious. So definitely listen to Final Call Radio. You can either have it playing in the background on your apps while you do other things, but listen to Final Call Radio. And speaking of Final Call, our Final Call newspaper, you see the cover right there, Prayers for Jamaica. Please support Black media. If you want to know the truth and what's really going on, go to the Final Call. There's a reason why we call the Final Call the #1 minister in our nation. That paper will get you the truth. You can get it every week. You can get it from one of our brothers on the street. You can get it going to thefinalcall.com to get a subscription. And don't forget about our brothers and sisters that are behind bars. Get a subscription for them as well, because as we know, they can lock them up physically, but they cannot lock up their mind. And one of our last announcements, if you want a book that greatly empowers your child and showcases their self-worth, look no further than I Never Knew I'm All That. Book 1. This book is written by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, illustrations by Sister Amina Lay. If you want a book that you can read to your children instead of all the filth that's out there, this is a book that you need to get. You can get that book on Amazon.com. Also, if you're in the Richmond area, you can hear the life-giving, life-saving teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, delivered by his local representative, Student Minister Tracy Muhammad, at 801 Prince Hall Drive in Richmond, Virginia. And here in Baltimore, we're here every Sunday at 11 a.m., 2801 North Dukeland Street. That is Connections High School. You can definitely join us as well to hear the life-giving, life-saving teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, delivered by his local representative, Brother Imam Abdul Salam Muhammad. So with that, family, we won't have our Eat to Live segment tonight, but we will return with that next week. But in the meantime, we thank you for tuning in each and every week. And I will turn it over to Brother West, who will close us out in prayer.
Praise be to Allah. I'm going to close out in prayer, essential prayer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, family.
This house is dedicated to knowledge and to the spreading of knowledge. Elijah Muhammad inspired new thought, new mind, new way of civilization among black people. But he wanted a house from which a light could be lifted up to give guidance to all who would be guided as this world begins to close down. This National Center for the re-education and retraining of the black man and woman, but for the totality of the human family of our planet. I named this mosque after the only woman that the Quran names a chapter after, the mother of Jesus, Maryam. All human beings need to be re-educated. That is the purpose of the National Center.